Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Africa Straight Talk. We are Africa's unapologetic podcast that dives deep into the African immigrant experience in a unique and straightforward way. My name is Kaboshi, and we truly appreciate your continued support of our podcast. Joining me today are my esteemed co-hosts, Emmanuel Nadeau, host of Africa Mix on KALW, radio in San Francisco, and curator of Africa Night, an event celebrating music and African diaspora conversations, and Kwesi Wilson, a communications studies professor at College of Alameda and the host of the podcast Telling Tall Stories. Let's get started. How's everyone doing today?
Kwesi, go ahead. Kwesi.
Kwesi all the time.
Yes. The funny thing is, I was expecting Kwame Nkrumah.
No,
I was expecting Kwame Nkrumah.
No, now we are really directly into the podcast.
I'm good. I'm very good. I'm excited to speak with today's guest. The topic is really interesting, and I can't wait.
So how was your Mother's Day? Today is we are recording this on Mother's Day, and we want to wish all the mothers happy Mother's Day today. So what did you do today for your mother, Kwesi?
Every day to me is Mother's Day. I go to my mom every other weekend in Sacramento.
Oh, that's nice.
And I just got back yesterday because she has church and stuff today, and then I also have to get ready for school. I had to be here for the taping. And so we had a good time. We always catch up on life. I lived a big chunk of my life without my mom before I came here. So I'm intentional about spending as much time as I can with her. So I don't really recognize one day as a Mother's Day.
That's awesome.
Every day
That's really
is
sweet.
Mother's Day.
That's sweet. That's sweet. How are you doing, Nado?
Well, for me, Mother's Day in the diaspora where we lived is really a commercial thing. And like as Kwasi said earlier, Mother's Day in Africa is every day. Every day. I mean, you're coming from work somewhere and then you feel like you're going to see your mother. You just drop by the house or bring her something. Not flour, but sometimes you want to bring her some food, might bring her some money or something like that,
Yeah.
So for me, Mother's Day is every day of the year.
That's great.
Yeah, I think it should be. But since we live in the diaspora and in the capitalist system, they have made it a commercial. So everything is a commercial. You got to take mother to dinner. You got to just one day. It's not enough. But what I did today, though, I went to cherry picking over in Brentwood. Yeah.
Season is open. Yes, I need to do it too.
Yeah, I was thinking about you, Kaboshi, by the way, when I was there. I said, this Kaboshi should come over here with her mom.
So where are my cherries?
Well, I have some. We had, we picked 20 pounds of cherries.
Okay, I need some of those, huh?
20 pounds of cherries. Yeah.
Distribute them liberally.
No, I will really. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, because they'll go bad before you get to them. So
yeah, I mean, just two of us. So I mean, we plan to distribute. That's why we got so much.
Cool.
But it was fun. It was fun. Going on those trees. Nice. I even climbed one of those cherry trees because there were some that were very, very ripe on top there. You got to do that. So that was good.
Oh my God. I think that's what I'm going to do this month. Yeah. I'm not missing out on it at all. Like last year I missed out on it. This year
if they're climbing trees, then this is serious.
Yeah.
Climbing trees. The cherry trees. This is serious.
But now, if Nado is climbing trees at this time of the year when they're just beginning, so by the time I get there, there'll be none.
Yeah.
No, I mean, come on, it's hectares, 100 hectares of cherries. Yeah, in Brentwood.
Sports.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
Extreme
it's fun.
Extreme sport. That's hilarious. Oh, okay.
When we were picking up the cherries, and I had the idea. I said, I mean, why they don't. Some farmers don't do that in Africa. Maybe, because when you pick yourself, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Because you pick it up yourself, and it's fun with the children, and people were there with a lot of the kids.
Nado, we do that in Africa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Remember, they'll put
so people come and
they'll put what?
They'll put a scarecrow. They'll put a scarecrow right there in the middle of the farm.
No.
Because people are coming to pick.
Oh no, they're stealing. No, this one they okay, you know what I mean. It'd be good.
I know what you mean.
Quest is just being silly.
like a pineapples or whatever. Instead of hiring people, pay them to come and
how much is it per pound?
It was $4 a pound.
Okay.
Which is very inexpensive, because if you go to Whole Food or somewhere over there, it will be like a $10 a pound.
Yeah. That's true. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding me. I need to do that. Yeah, I'm doing okay. Today was, stay-at-home day. But yesterday I met with a friend of mine. Actually, I was in your neighborhood, Nado.
Oh, really? You were at Walnut Creek?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah. But it was not bad. It was nice. We went to the rooftop bar.
I've been wanting to go there, the rooftop.
Oh, yeah. It's not bad. It's really nice.
It's a restaurant, right? Or
it's a restaurant. It's a bar restaurant. I
heard they got a lot of black spaces in Walnut Creek now.
There's this restaurant I've been to. It's a Jamaican. It's really bougie, but it's really nice. It's really nice. I'll remember the name. I'm usually terrible with names, but I'll remember the name and I'll let you know. But it's really nice. Okay. It's not bad at all. Yeah. So that's why I spent my afternoon yesterday, and then today I just stayed home, made some, cooked some food, and did that. My mom went to work, so it's okay.
That's good.
And then I'm here with you guys. Yay!
Well, that's good. It's good to have you, and we have a wonderful guest today. But I wanted to mention a little bit about what happened about a little over a week ago. On April the 30th, there was a worldwide rally in support of the young president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré. It was a call to France and the Western countries in general to stop their campaign to destabilize this country, whose president in less than 3 years is rising and is seen as a bold leadership. I mean, not colonial puppet that we have there. And before he came to power, Burkina Faso was fragile, very externally controlled by France. But today, in less than 3 years, under his leadership, education is free, foreign military forces are gone, local control over natural resources, free housing and medical for all its citizens. And guess what? The West doesn't like that.
No,
and they wanted to use the Gaddafi's playbook. So they have this black American general who went to, I think it was the Congress or whatever, and one of the committee, and talk about Ibrahim Traoré using the money from his gold for his own protection, and a big lie. And they want to try the same thing with this young man. 19 coup attempts, so his life has been foiled by his own Secret Service. 19. That's a lot. So they're just trying hard because the boy doesn't want anymore the natural resources to go in the hands of the foreign multinationals.
I've seen a lot of social media posts about Traoré and what he's doing for his own people. But with social media, there are a lot of fake stories, and I'm wondering if it's really true that he is actually succeeding in what it is that he's trying to do.
If you think that it's not really true, though, you can travel to Burkina Faso and see that yourself. Because why are they trying to get rid of him?
There is an Al Jazeera report that, and I'm not against it, but there is an Al Jazeera report that says that he is being amplified by the Russian, operatives to get the message out. But for me, the amplification, at the end of the day, the message is what is being amplified, right? So whether they're elevating him, deifying him, whatever it is, this is somebody who is standing up to colonialism and neocolonialism. And even Ghana's president today came out echoing the same sentiments. This is really unprecedented. Mahama came today echoing the same sentiment and then going back to Nkrumah's theme of neocolonialism and fighting against. I was shocked to hear the Ghana's president saying that. I will talk more about it because actually there was a travel advisory regarding Ghana that I was going to talk about, but it leads to the same thing where he's been, because of his stance against denying the Western countries access to mining gold in Ghana. Their license expired after 30 years. And he said he's not going to renew it, and he wants Ghana to, Ghanaians to have we have the technology, and we should be mining our own gold.
Exactly. That's exactly what the Burkina Faso is doing. Yeah.
Yes. And immediately the White House put out the travel advisory against Ghana.
Yeah.
In terms of Ghana being a violent place and jacking and mugging and all these other stories that are coming from the, CIA's website, which is all false. But the point is, I like the fact that a lot of Africans, and especially the youth, like you were saying, I saw people from Jamaica echoing the same sentiment.
Oh, nice.
The African American have been involved also in it. The African American
activists. African Americans, they can barely even pronounce the guy's name right, but they are well aware of it. And
that's great. I like it. Yeah.
Yes, because they're now educating themselves on colonialism.
Yeah.
They're educating themselves on colonialism, and there's this burning desire to see a new Africa.
Yeah.
An Africa that controls its resources. And to me, that's what I'm hoping will awaken the youth. Because if any change will come from the youth.
So I thought it was important that we talk a little bit about it because he was so much into the news, and so.
Yeah, and it's important that we create a space for conversations like this because we are Africans and we do recognize that we come from Africa. We still have ties and roots back on the continent, and whatever goes on that continent affects us over here. So
we're hybrids.
We are hybrids. We
are
hybrid.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's great that we do, even if we're going to be focusing on us Africans in the diaspora and what goes on in our lives over here, speaking about what's going on the continent is important. So, thank you for insisting that we do this today. Nado and Kwesi. All right. But we do have an exciting show. I know Traore's news is exciting. He is a leader who's just ignited a lot of excitement and lit a fire in a lot of and in the bellies and in the asses of Africans. So I am very excited to see what happens in Burkina Faso moving forward. But
Niger.
And Niger and Mali and all those other West African countries
and Ruto
also, and Kenya, whatever's going to happen.
Ruto is very unbalanced. He doesn't know which feet to dance on.
The interesting thing, Ruto came out at the very beginning, came out the door singing these tunes. Like he was really, when he first came out, you thought he was going to be that guy for Kenya. No.
Yeah, tables turned, but time will tell. Time will tell. But today, as we mentioned earlier, we're recording on Mother's Day, and today we want to pay homage to all the mothers, the grandmothers, the aunties who are mothers, the fathers who are mothers in our lives, and we have an exciting guest who is a friend. I'm going to disclose that from the beginning. She's been my friend for many 2 decades almost. So I'm so happy that we're going to have an opportunity to talk to her and get some insight on her experience in raising a child in the diaspora. So, Esther Nabwire is our guest today, and she's unapologetically Kenyan who carries culture, faith, and fire wherever she goes. A proud mother raising her daughter between two cultures, and she's also a public servant. With 18 years working in California's public service and a heart for community healing, Esther brings a unique blend of cultural pride, faith, and passion for mental wellness among African immigrant families. Welcome, Esther, to Africa Straight Talk.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, I'm just going to go and dive right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? And when did you come to America?
First of all, again, thank you for having me. And I mean, this is really humbling to be doing this on Mother's Day. I can't even wrap my head around just the pride I have in just being here on this day. I mean, in Africa, we don't really celebrate Mother's Day. Like, you all said, Mother's Day is every day.
Yeah.
This is truly like a westernized thing, but here we are. But yeah, so to answer your question, I grew up in Kenya, born, raised in Nairobi. I came to the US when I was 25. So I've been here since 2001. So a couple of years.
Shout out 254.
Exactly. Yes.
254.
Anguka nayo. Yeah, so America has become a home away from home. I've been here longer than I was in Kenya.
Yeah. For most of us, we've lived here more than we live back home.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
And the interesting thing is when you're referring to Esther, you say, "Oh, my Kenyan friend Esther." Right? She's Kenyan all the way until she goes back to Kenya. And that American girl,
American
Esther.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's something we've really talked about on this show, like living in two worlds, how you're one in one country and another in another country, and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
I have a question for Esther. Esther, why did you choose California?
So I landed in California because my sister was here. So she'd been here for several years, and it was just natural to land where somebody that I knew was. I originally actually landed, it's smack in the middle of Kansas. Because I came here for school and my college was in Kansas, and didn't see anybody that looked like me where I ended up. So I stayed there for a week and I was like, I don't think I'm going to survive here. So then went to Texas because one of my best friends was there, and then came to Cali.
So what kind of support system do you have or did you have, whether it be from Kenyan community out here or African community when you came out here and adjusted to the US? And did you come with your daughter or you had your daughter here?
So when I first came, I came by myself. I left my daughter back in Kenya. So she was still young. So that definitely was, that was hard. So when I left in 2001, Stacy was 5.
Okay.
So yeah, I came by myself first, and the intent was just for me to figure out the landscape. I didn't think it was fair to yank her from what she knew, coming to an unknown when even I did not know what I was coming to. Talking about support systems, when you first land as an immigrant, wherever you land, you never know what your support system is going to be. You have to come and figure that out. So yes, I had family here, but I had to figure out again, how does that support system play into my daily life? So I'm gonna say there was a support system just because I'm very social, and I was very intentional about like meeting other Kenyans. But for me, that support system like almost bridged the gap in the culture shock. because I was like, okay, now I have other people who look like me, who speak Swahili, who eat Kenyan food, who understand, who go out. Because I was young. That's what I was still doing in my early 20s. I wanted to go clubbing with other Kenyans. And so through my sister, I met a few of those folks who are still friends to now,
Mm-hmm.
But one of the biggest things was like, unlike Kenya, where support automatically comes naturally from like family and neighbors, here you actually have to build your own community. You have to be intentional about building your own community or building your own village. So over time, I kind of like build a tribe.
Okay, Esther, does your daughter feel strongly connected to her African roots? And if she does, how did you help her build strong cultural identity while living here in America?
That is a great question. I feel that she is to a certain extent. She came here when she was really young, and so just for her, it was a struggle trying to hold on to what she knew, but also trying to fit in. So I think I've been very intentional about just being like Haboshi introduced me unapologetically Kenyan.
Mm.
And so yes, and I like Kenyan food. I just had her like in the kitchen with me, and she's always complained that it takes too long to cook African food. And I'm like, yes, it does. Like this is a whole like day. Yeah, like you have to think about it a week ahead. So she was impatient. Now she like and that's her generation. You said like the microwave generation. They want everything instantly. And it's funny, like, now as she grows older, she keeps calling me. She's like, oh, mom, give me the recipe for this. I'm like, when I was trying to put you in the kitchen, I try to bring her to as many Kenyan events as I can, just to try to weave culture into like all the normal stuff that we do. So
Does she speak Swahili?
she does not. And the funny thing is, like, at home, my
Yeah,
mom, me, we speak Swahili.
yeah.
We speak a lot of Swahili, and she understands. She hears. She understands what we're saying, and then, but she doesn't know how to. So it's almost kind of like me, and so I'm Luya, my tribe.
Mm-hmm.
I I understand Luya. I don't speak Luya, even though my mom spoke it while I was growing up. I just never got the knack for learning Luya.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, normal for kids. Like Esther, I'm Luya, but I don't speak the language. I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And in Kenya, growing up, I didn't speak Swahili a lot. In our house, we
Mm.
spoke English. But when I
Mm.
came out here, now I find that I'm speaking a whole lot more Swahili than I would if I was in Kenya. So weird, so funny. But
That's interesting.
but does it matter that the child doesn't speak the language? I don't know if it matters, because to a lot of people it does matter because it shows cultural identity. But does it really matter that the child should speak the language? Does it say anything? I don't know. Like Kwesi, would it matter if you found a Ghanaian who doesn't speak, I don't know, is it Twi that you speak?
True.
Yeah. Does it matter? Does that show
Well,
that it's...
it matters to a great degree, but you have to understand that it's different for kids that are born and raised here, right? But in terms of whether it matters, language is the software that activates the mind, right? Language is also codes. There are certain things that name human experiences that are codified in language. For instance, ski is not a word we have in any of African languages. Why? Because it's not part of our experience, right?
Yeah.
Snow and all this other stuff. If you go to places it snows, they have a name for it. But so the language is access to a culture. Now, if you don't have the language, there's a limit to how much of that culture you could access. When the Europeans came, they didn't understand our languages, and they said we're idol worshippers and a whole bunch of stuff. So, yeah, it matters. But children that are born and raised here in the U.S. or in foreign countries, I call them ABCs, American-born children. They don't have access to that. So the question I have for her, there are various aspects of the culture that she's going to be limited to. Now, I wanted to know if you find that your child identifies more as an American than a Kenyan, or your child also sees herself as a hybrid, and if so, which side does she weigh to more, and do you intentionally pull her to the Kenyan side as well? Because the forces here are pulling her to America because her peers, her friends, and everything else is going to be influenced by the American culture.
That is such a great question. I feel like it's changed over time as she's aged. When she was younger, she wanted to, well, when she came here, of course, she wanted to stay Kenyan, but just based on school and where we lived, she gravitated more towards being American. So I feel like almost kind of like it's hybrid, but it's also changed over time because now, as she's older, she wants to be more Kenyan. She wants to hold on to that identity, and she's asking me about some Kenyan music and all these different things. But I feel like she's more grounded in Kenya more than anything else.
That's funny. It's growing up, because even me, I don't know if it happened to you, Nado and Kwesi, in US. For me, every end of school term, like every April, August, December, we were all put in one car and taken to the village. Hated it. Loathed that drive. It was an 8-hour drive. You go to the village, there's no TV, there's no electricity, there's no running water. Hated it to death. Right now, oh my God, I love it. I'm like, this is what I need. This is what I want. Like, can I live here?
I mean, interesting.
Right? Yeah. So it's so funny when you're a child. There's some things that you just don't like, but you get to appreciate them as you grow older.
As you grow older, yeah.
Yeah. And the worst part is sometimes it's too late to even try and experience or want to experience, because the people who would be the best to teach you and to show you and to introduce you into that life, sometimes just not there anymore. So so how do we make kids love this, like force it down their throats, maybe, to love this when they're smaller, so that they just don't regret some of the things that, they will definitely do when they become big. I mean, that's just my rhetorical question. There's no answer right now. But I do feel you, because I've met Stacy, and she's a wonderful child. She's very quiet and very low key.
I just can't believe she's 27. 27?
Yeah. 29.
Yeah, because I remember when she was just going to school, college, and she just got admitted to, and then you were so excited. She felt like just yesterday.
Yeah. It's amazing how time flies by.
Time flies.
Yeah. Speaking about education, and this brings up the issue of race and bias in the education system. A lot of kids who either are born here or are, grow up here, come here when they're, like 5, 6, or 10 years old, and get into the education system in this country, have this adjustment period where they are trying to fit into a society that is already established. So they are the outsiders going in. And that can be very difficult to navigate for children, and also for parents who haven't really experienced the education system in this country. So they too are learning. So you have two people who are learning this whole system. So when Stacy was here in school, that's elementary, middle, and high school, on to college. But especially when she was smaller, when she really didn't have a voice, did she experience racism or bias in schools? And how did you navigate that? And how did you support her in the process? You're listening to Africa Straight Talk, your go-to place for African immigrant experience.
Yes, absolutely. I lived in Alameda.
Oh, yeah.
And so even I, as an adult, when I moved to Alameda, I experienced the racism and the bias. So yes, she did. And I think that the worst part was experiencing it from people who looked like her. So like
Yeah.
she gravitated towards the African Americans, the few that were in the school, but those are the ones who actually shunned her more than anybody else. And
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's I mean, as a parent, it's heartbreaking. Like, you want to cushion your children from things, but some of these things you just can't, you know. Especially at Payden Elementary School, she did experience that a lot because she was trying to fit in. She's coming in. She was When I brought her, she was almost 9. So, she was being made fun of because of her accent, you know. But again, she was one of the very few Black kids at her school. Stacey was already a quiet child, so she became ultra quiet. So I already knew something was going on at school. And so it's just, as a parent, you just have to constantly affirm,
Yeah.
and let them know that, yeah, unfortunately, you're coming from a country where everybody looked like you. Now you're coming here. A lot of people don't look like you. And the people that
Yeah.
look like you are the ones who are actually almost, for lack of a better word, are your worst enemies. And through that, though, she actually found other immigrant kids who were like Asian, Filipino, and that has become her core group. Like, she's still friends with these girls till now. I call them my other daughters. But those are the people who kind of like enveloped her and helped her in school, like like in a space where I could not be present physically.
Right, right, right.
And they became her friends, and she built the relationships around those folks, and they went to the same middle school, went to the same high school, and now they're friends for life.
One thing about Americans, African Americans, the way they see the African students who have an accent. They think that if you have an accent, it means that you are not on the same level. It means that you are not educated. And the trouble is that they don't.
It's actually an American thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. When that's true. When you have an accent, they think that you are totally ignorant. You are not educated. That's why you have an accent. But this is their own ignorance that they have thousands of accents around the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wish that some of the school or the teacher, if there's a situation like that, the teacher should just come and tell the kid that she has an accent because she's from another country, another continent. That's why
But
she has an accent. Yeah.
Now, though, this is a very good point you raise. But the teachers also subscribe to that mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And so
It's
I
unfortunate.
remember I went to go stand in after school classes at a school across the street from the Grand Lake Theater before they shut that school down. I went there, and there was a class that I was teaching, and there was a little kid, about maybe 10 years old, from Ghana. And when he saw me as a teacher or whatever, he was so excited. He wanted me to dispel, because they had been teasing him all the time. They used to call him African booty scratcher, that all this other stuff. And he's been telling them, oh, we don't live on trees, we don't live on this. He's been telling them. So to see me as somebody of authority from his country, he naturally gravitated to me. The irony of it is he helps them with their homework. Like, he was the one that helped them with everything. Your daughter came about maybe 20 years ago, right? Or a little over 20 years ago. And so that has changed. But a lot of us, when we came, at least I was 19 when I came, so I was able to deal with it better. But a 5-year-old,
yeah, they can't.
their personality is not even shaped. And this is the world they're dealing with. And to see people who look like you, because you naturally gravitate towards the people who like you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then when those people, in their own fight against their own shame of themselves, take it out on you because you are reflecting what they don't want to know about or like about themselves.
In spite of these foreign students' accent and scholastic studies have always showed that foreign students perform better than the American student.
Yeah, I mean, Quest just said this little kid was being bullied. He's the one who was doing homework for these
Right,
Exactly.
these
right,
bullies. I mean, really.
right,
Yeah,
right.
which
And
brings me to the next. Say something. Sorry, Esther.
no, I was just gonna say,
Mm.
and that's where like I felt as a parent that the
Oh.
education system, at least the Lamia education system, failed my child because I think they have the unique opportunity, but also I think like it's their responsibility to create spaces where every student, regardless of where you come from, like you feel seen, you feel respected, you feel safe. So back then, I don't think cultural awareness was a thing. But I feel like as educators, they should be. There should be a way that cultural awareness is incorporated into their training or whatever, because it would have eliminated a lot of bullying, a lot of anxiety. It would have saved my child a lot of anxiety, because she would have felt included and understood. So I think there should be a way in the education system where they incorporate or integrate having diverse voices. I know
Mm-hmm.
with the current administration, we're steering away from diversity, equity, inclusion, but it still is a thing. Kids are kids. Kids want to just be kids. A kid should not have to go to school and struggle trying to fit in. As a 9-year old, having left a different country, coming here, I don't think it's fair for that child to try to figure out how to fit in just because she has an accent. So, and the teachers did not help.
Mm.
I have to completely agree with that.
Talking about the parenting approach, how do you discipline your child? What form of discipline did you use? Because I want to know, were there times when you felt disciplining your daughter and the African way, and because of the American family culture, you refrain from applying the African ways of discipline?
Nado, can I tag my question to your question?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Because it's also closely related.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us Africans, we had parents that weren't as supportive of our goals. Let's say you have something you're doing at school, your parent doesn't show up to support you, right?
Yeah.
You have a basketball game, you have this game, you have that game. But when you come here, you change your parenting skills. You don't really do for your kids, or you treat them differently from how you were treated. How did you
Mm-hmm.
navigate that too? How
Yeah.
would you compare the African way of parenting? What did you change to adapt to, supporting your daughter here?
Yeah, okay.
It's a loaded question.
It's very loaded.
Mm-hmm.
So as
Discipline
far
and
as
support. How about that? Discipline and
yeah,
support.
Yeah.
yeah.
Discipline and
So
support.
as far as discipline, sometimes I say, I mean, in Kenya, and Carol may relate to this, we have a saying, "Ulisalimia Mungu," meaning you must have greeted God in a former life, just because of things that happen in your life. And for
Yeah.
me, I feel like I was so blessed to have a child that I didn't really need to discipline. Stacy made parenting very easy for me. So there was no time, and then just a little stint in middle school, or was it high school? Yeah, I felt like I had to punish her. So I didn't have to instill any type of discipline because we always had like conversations around certain things. And she was just always was a straight child, even up to now. Like I never felt like I had to pull out the whip, in for lack of a better word, to do anything. But also when I brought her, I brought my mom as well. And my mom is old school. My mom will quickly slap you before she says anything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
like the African
Oh,
mother.
yeah.
Yes.
Esther's mom is a
Yeah.
tough
Yeah.
one.
Even in the south, in the southern part of America,
Oh.
during those time, the African American that live in the south, they will tell you,
Mhm, mhm.
"What?
Mhm. It's slap first,
Yeah,
ask questions
Questions
later.
Ask
later.
ask
questions
question
later.
after."
Mhm.
Yeah.
When you're looking at your face with that palm imprint. So,
Mhm,
yeah, so my mom helped a lot because back then, when I was able to bring them, I was working in healthcare. And so I was working like PM shifts, sometimes I would work night shifts. So I wasn't there mostly during the day. By the time I'm getting home, Stacy's asleep and all of that stuff. But we still had conversations even as she grew older. If I found out that she was doing certain things, then, we'd talk about it. But the thing about parenting is it's almost like running a business. Like you anticipate that there's gonna be a period of stagnation. You
mhm,
start a business, it's gonna kind of like scale really quickly, everything's gonna be exciting, and at some point it's gonna become latent, right? So it's
mhm.
parenting the same way. So you anticipate your kids are gonna be teenagers and they're gonna act up, they're gonna have moods, they're gonna have attitude. So what do
Mhm.
you do? So you kind of like prepare. So sometimes I feel like we act like we're surprised that our kids are teenagers and that they're acting up. No, we did the
Mhm,
same thing to our parents. So yeah, we're gonna do the same thing to you. So
mhm, mhm,
We
it's
did
almost
worse.
yes. And so you have to kind of like prepare or anticipate. And unlike the typical discipline that we grew up with back home in our countries, where you was spanked, there was no timeout. But I
Oh.
also never did timeout with Stacy. I'm like, what the heck does timeout even mean? Like, what does that solve? Okay, go sit in a corner and look at a wall for 20 minutes.
Or you don't have no TV,
Oh, you don't have TV. Okay,
no
put your cell phone
TVs,
away for a
no
week.
iPad, all this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So I'm like, no. So for me, that never existed in my household. So it's just it's either you're gonna have a conversation from your mother, and this is what you did. But like I said, Stacy never gave me a reason to ever do that with her. So I can't say I've done discipline like
Mhm,
the African way with her because I never had to, just because she's just an easy child, thank God.
mhm.
Um,
So I guess you never wanted to ship her back to Kenya, huh? Like some
oh, like I
parents.
said, there was a stint, there was a period over there. But
Uh-huh.
like when you're so in tune with your kids, when something is different. She started
Mhm,
acting differently, and I knew she was hanging out with a new crowd. Like there
mm,
was just a sudden shift in things she was doing and things she was like she all of a sudden, oh, I want to wear makeup and do all of this stuff, or I want to go here, I want to go there. I'm like, okay, she must have a new crew that she's hanging out with. So Carol knows me for years. I'm the queen
mhm.
of passive aggressive.
Yep.
So I started applying to boarding schools in the US, and Stacy would pick up the mail. So out of nowhere, we were getting mail from boarding schools. And she probably was wondering, like, what the heck is happening with mom? Like, all of a sudden, now we're just getting mail from different schools. But I did tell her one time, I was like, yeah, you're about to go to Kenya one way,
Mhm.
like no return. And not a boarding school in Nairobi, no, in the village.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the village. So you better get your shit together.
I mean, that's true because I personally have some friends from West Africa
Yeah.
who had really their daughter or their son was very, very difficult to control in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, okay, oh, you're going on vacation, one-way ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's it. The girl stay there. She's now a woman, probably married with her kid, and never come back. And
Mm-hmm.
then recently, I think it was this year or last year, where this Nigerian boy in England that
Mm-hmm.
was fooling his parents. Yeah, because the kids start gathering and having some
Yeah.
friends that
Hmm.
were in a very
Took the
bad
parents to
circle.
court. Took the parents to
Yeah.
court. Yeah,
So the
and
parents
lost the
sent him
case.
exactly. The parents sent him back to Nigeria because
Mm-hmm.
they know that he was going to be in the situation with those kids that he was going with. Okay, it's very, very bad.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids, sue the parents for bringing him to Nigeria, not taking him back to England.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, as Kwesi said,
Yeah.
he lost the kid lost the case. Of course, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, when I was saying that, I really didn't intend to send her back just because,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I left Kenya and I left her there. So I was trying to make up for the couple of years where I wasn't present. So I wasn't going to send my child back because I was just barely beginning to build a relationship with her. You know, between she was 5 and I brought her, she was 9. I didn't see her in between. So it had been like 4 or 5 years. But you know, it was kind of like almost like how our parents, our parents used to threaten us with certain things and never really did them. So, but, and again, like I said, it was just a little stint where I knew she was hanging out with the wrong crowd. But she herself figured out it was the wrong crowd and eventually just, got her shit together.
Raising your child in two worlds, did you have any fears? Or as you were thinking about bringing Stacy here and, thinking about her future, what challenges or fears did you have? And did they come to fruition? And if they did, how did you handle them?
Let me give you a hypothetical example. Maybe that would. So imagine, I don't know if that would have been a fear, but imagine if your child came and said they are gay or something else based on the pressures of this culture. How would you have handled that? Or if that's happened, how did you handle that?
So, I mean, the fears for me were, first of all, I was a young parent. I was a single mother. I was myself trying to figure out being in a different country. But also because I was working so much, I think the fear was not being there for everything that was going on in her life. Because, back home, raising a child is a community event.
Yeah, it's a village. It takes a village.
It's a village, and you don't realize that until you leave and realize how isolating parenting can be, because you just can't impose that on other people. We're talking about kids' school events and everything else, and thankfully my child was not involved in any sports. She's just as lazy as I am. So I didn't have to be like, oh my gosh, I have to go to my kids' basketball game and, trying to figure that between talking to an employer and trying to explain why you have to leave early and all that stuff. But yeah, and Kwesi, you bring up a really good point, like even just challenges with sexuality as an African, how to navigate that. Like, luckily, we live in a state that's very accommodating. But I think my biggest fear was just not being a good parent. But again, what is a good parent? Like parenting, I think is like we all just testing it out. Because what worked for her, if I'd had a second child, may not probably have worked for her sibling. You're always it's always constant learning. It doesn't come with a manual. And I think I almost felt like a middle child because I'm trying to raise her based on what my mom's expectation of being a parent is. But I'm also trying to raise her as a parent in the US and taking things that I learned from me growing up, the good things. So it's almost kind of like, how you learn from like having a bad manager and a good manager? You take those lessons, and then when you become a manager, you're like, I never want to do X, Y, Z. I want to do A, B, C. So it was almost the same things. There's certain things about how my mom was also a single mother. So there's certain things about how my mom raises that I wanted to instill in my child. And then there were certain things I was like, okay, I don't want to do these things as a mother because it opens up a space for me to have a conversation with my child. So it was a lot of balancing. And again, like I said, I was young. So I still want to have my life as a 20-year-old hanging out with friends, but I'm also a parent. So trying to balance between being a parent, myself growing up, having friends and hanging out. And, just it was just kind of like a huge balance in making sure that she knew that regardless of everything happening outside, mom was always going to be there for her,
Yeah.
and making sure that I instilled that confidence in her that she just show up as you.
I think that's very important to know that there's that support system, even if you don't have the answers there and then, always
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you have that safety net to fall back on is comforting for them and also for you, because every parent, I don't have kids, but I live with my mother, and I see that even at her age,
Mm-hmm.
as a senior citizen, she's still worrying about her grown-up children.
Yep.
So
It never
it's
stops.
always, and it's comforting, yeah, and it's comforting for even my brothers who are in Kenya to be able to pick up the phone and reach my mom, and she tells them, don't worry, that's nonsense. Why are you worried about something like that? In the way, the condescending
Mm-hmm.
Kenyan way of saying
Mm-hmm.
I love
Mm-hmm.
you. you know and they're like, oh yeah, okay, you know what, I'm cool,
Yeah.
I'll be fine, I'll be okay. So
Yeah.
it's comforting to have that. And even if you don't have the answers, it is always nice for kids to know that they have someone there who's going to support them throughout. Even Kwesi, I'm sure you go through that with your mom, right?
Yes, absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what all mothers do. But there's
Mm-hmm.
also one layer that wants leads me to ask this question. Like, for instance, at my age, I don't have any children,
Mm-hmm.
and usually African parents tend to be on their kids. You need to have a child. You need to marry by this time.
Oh
You need to
yeah.
do this.
Yep.
You need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, and it takes a certain level of caring for your child to support your child no matter what the child ends up doing with their
Mm-hmm.
life. And my
Yeah.
mom assessed me for that. How do you do that for your child?
Mm.
Ooh. Yeah, I was just having that conversation with one of my girlfriends yesterday because she was like, she's here, but her relatives in Kenya are still pressuring, like, oh, just have one child. And that was my thing was, okay, so I will have the one child, then what? Are you going to help me? Like, you want me to have a child just to have a child so you can say I had a child? But at the same time, you don't understand what may be extenuating circumstances as to why I do not have a child.
Mm-hmm.
Could be I'm battling healthcare issues, like the pressure. And I know my mom, can she finally stopped? Uh, my mom was always like, "Oh, you need to get married." I'm like, "Why? Like, why is that why is that part of the checklist that you've made it in
Mm-hmm.
life that you got
Mm-hmm,
married?"
mm-hmm,
I could be married and I'm in an unhappy relationship. But you checked the box for being married and society accepts, like, oh my gosh, Esther got married. Esther has a
mm-hmm,
husband. The husband could be abusive. It doesn't matter. So it's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing with our kids. It's like, and I know my daughter, and I have nieces, I have friends who have kids has same age group. Having kids is like the last thing on their minds right now.
mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
They are so career focused. They don't even
mm-hmm.
think about relationships or children, none of that, And, when we talk about, oh, yeah, I want a grandchild. No, like, the grandchild, I was given a cat. Lily's very,
Yeah, actually, I agree with you, Esther, because a lot of the Gen Zs now,
mm-hmm.
they are not thinking about having kids at all.
No,
Well, they're
Really.
also looking at the economic situation and the job market and
Yeah.
everything
Exactly.
else.
Mm-hmm.
exactly. It's
And
Mm-hmm,
expensive.
mm-hmm,
It is
Yep.
freaking expensive to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of us now are kind of like, hybrid parenting. Like we're in the hybrid parenting mode because we learned from our parents what worked, what didn't work. But we
mm-hmm,
also look at the dynamics right now, parenting Gen Zs, and you're like, okay, this is where we are going, and
mm-hmm.
just meeting them where they're at.
Mm-hmm. That's true. You bring up something important, meeting people
Yeah.
where they are,
Mm-hmm.
and that.
Parents,
Mhm. Parents
No,
do
go
what?
ahead, go ahead. No,
I'm done.
parenting here, like my mom meets me where I'm at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my mom's never pressured me. My dad back home was pressuring me, but
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
my mom never pressured me, never asked me, "Oh, kid, this, none of that, or get married, all that stuff." And
Yeah.
you realize that that's what a child wants from a parent,
Yeah.
and many of us come here and we sort of transfer what we grew up with on our children here.
Mm-hmm.
That we
Mm-hmm.
put that undue pressure on them too.
Yeah.
So it's refreshing to hear you be more supportive of what the child wants,
Mm-hmm.
because that's really being putting the child first. And so we're talking about the hybrid. It's not everyone that's where Esther is at.
Yeah.
There are some people who have a different mix of hybrid.
Yeah.
There are certain issues that they're hybrid on. There are certain issues that they're conservative on. There are certain Africans who say, "Oh, I have a friend, for instance, whose child obviously is gay, but he
Mm-hmm.
denies it." I have a friend
Mm-hmm.
whose child has a mental illness. They've denied it, and they've kept
Mm-hmm.
that child in church and pray, 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 pray for that child, right? Instead of
Yeah.
getting the mental health help, they feel like they don't want to accept that their child is, struggling with mental health issues,
Yeah.
because that's not what they wish to have, but that's what they have, and they felt they could pray that way, and so then they'll send their child to Ghana, bring their child back, all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see different dynamics of hybrid.
And
Yeah.
that's one thing I feel like, oh my gosh, yeah. I by the way, I'm very very spiritual, very religious. I believe
Mm-hmm.
in God. I mean, faith is what has gotten me through life, being a single parent, parenting, all of that stuff. But my goodness, Africans, we can't pray everything away. Like
Right.
yeah, and so and I know Karo, you saw that on my bio. Is like mental health has now become almost like a passion project for me, just because we need to do better as immigrants. We have to acknowledge that mental health, mental illness exists.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Yeah.
people in our communities going through it,
Mm-hmm.
and because we choose to stay silent, that perpetuates the disease in the community. We have this perception that, everybody has to be perfect, upstanding citizen. But yeah, no, mental illness is real. And I'm seeing it in my community right now. And it hurts me to see friends going through that, but to have their families totally disregard and just say, okay, we're just going to go to church and pray. No, this person needs help. We need
Yeah.
to talk about it. But again, you're not the only person, you're not the only family going through it. There are other families going through it. So how do we, as a community, start making this conversation normal? When somebody has cancer, we are quick to show up.
Oh God.
We'll
Yeah.
bring you food, we'll come clean your house, we'll do all of these things. But when it's mental illness, nobody shows up for you. Nobody wants to talk about it. We should show up the same way we show up when somebody dies. The whole Harambe community thing, fish fry, whatever it is, in whatever community it is. And it's the same
Yeah.
way that we feel like I feel like we have to show up in raising our kids. Because one thing I wish I had had when Stacy came over was a community of other Kenyans who probably were going through the same struggles like I was. It would have
Yeah.
helped to know that I was not the only one stressing out about how is school going to be for my child tomorrow. I know I wasn't the only one, but I didn't know where the others existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we don't talk about it. We show up and want to make it look like, oh yeah, she's doing great, she's in
Everything
school.
is great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
just being vulnerable. I don't think we have spaces where Africans feel that they can be vulnerable. And I get it. We've created an environment where there's so much distrust in African communities just because of, we have some bad actors. You share a story with somebody and next thing you hear it on the streets. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But we still need to create spaces where parents can feel like they have support, when they're going through struggles raising kids. Being a single parent in the U.S. was not easy.
Yeah, Esther, earlier you spoke about a parenting manual, and you said there's no parenting manual. And I agree with you. I mean, there is no parenting manual because I think the manual is written one day at a time. I
Yeah.
mean, the context and the environment changes over a period of time, so you got to you got to adapt to the situation. So really, those people writing parenting manual, I agree with you. I mean, it's not it's not true. There's no parenting manual.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to ask you, in what ways has parenting reshaped your own identity?
Whew. So I feel like it's an ever changing cycle. But so I had my daughter when I was 20. So I was pretty young, just about to go to college. Just
You were a pretty young teen, PYT.
Absolutely, yes.
PYT. Okay, I'm sorry.
I love it.
You were the PYT.
I was. And so going to college, and like, I think in my immediate circle, just thinking about going to campus, I was probably the only one who had a parent. I mean, was a parent. But I had girlfriends from high school that I went to college with who surrounded me and made me feel like it was okay. And so being a parent, like, I feel like it has softened me in certain ways, but it also has kind of like made me bold in other ways. Because I knew there was this little human that looked up to me, and I had to be their advocate for everything. So I had to be bold in that way. But it also softened me because, again, same thing. This little human that I absolutely love and will do anything for. So but it also I feel like it also forced me to confront certain parts of me, especially when I grew older, certain parts of me probably that I had never sat with or confronted and not healed. Like I said, I grew up with a single mother. I didn't grow up with a father. But that was one of the things that I was very intentional about, was that I had to make sure Stacy had a relationship with her dad. Regardless of me and him not being together or whatever, that was one of the biggest things for me, was she had to grow up with her dad.
Is she out of the house now, or is she living alone? Or
okay. Yeah, Stacy moved out right out of out of college, like right out of high school, because she went to college in Monterey, so she moved down there and lived in Salinas for quite a while. Then she came back briefly, and then she applied to Santa Clara for her master's, and then moved to San Jose. So she's been very independent for quite a long time.
Okay, that's really nice. Now, speaking about your mother, we have 3 generations in your house. We have your mom, you have you, and we have Stacy. I think Kwesi termed it as you're the sandwich parent or something like that. So how do you manage the relationships between the 3 of you and your mom and Stacy, you and Stacy? I mean, it's there's a lot of dynamics going on here.
Girl, it's a dance. It's a daily dance, because I have no idea what I'm gonna get every day. Like, so it's just my mom. I mean, Carrie met my mom. My mom is like super traditional.
Oh yeah.
Extremely traditional. And I absolutely honor her, and I honor that. But I feel like I'm always adapting, because there are days, like there are days when my mom will call me to vent about stuff that's happening in Kenya that literally has nothing to do with me, but she will call. and she will just pour out on me. And then literally 2 or 3 hours later, Stacy calls about something happened at work. She just pours on me. And so I've had, especially lately, I've just like had to like literally center myself. I've had to figure out how to do my own self-care, where like when I get a phone call, I already anticipate like, okay, it may be one of those phone calls where everybody's dumping. And it may wipe me out because again, my professional life also takes so much out of me.
Well, then I'll be adding to the list, but go ahead. I'll be calling you to dump. Now I know where the dust, where the trash can, the dumpster, where the dumpster is at.
I see that, yeah. And so I've had to learn how to adapt and just make sure that I take care of me so that I have enough left over to give everybody else. And so managing the relationship between Stacy and my mom, I mean, at the end of it, love is the thread, right? You know, I love these humans to death. I will do anything for my mom, anything for my daughter. So it's just kind of like keeping that bridge open both ways, learning from my mom, but also learning from my daughter, because I'm learning so much from her, you know, with her generation. So, and just absorbing both of those, but also being cognizant enough to tell people when Esther just needs to be left alone.
Right.
Creating boundaries.
So I can refill my cup.
Creating boundaries. Yeah. Something new we're all learning here. Kwesi, boundaries. Just don't dump on Esther, okay?
All right, Kwesi, what do you want? What are you trying to dump on me right now?
I've been going through midlife crisis.
Oh, crap.
Midlife
crisis.
What in the world is midlife crisis? Tell me that.
I don't know what it is, but I know.
Well, you know, if you're experiencing midlife crisis, you know, you need some money to go buy a very expensive sports car, like Maserati.
Maserati, exactly.
That's what people say.
I was thinking he's about to run out there and get himself like a 20-year-old blonde wife.
Yes, exactly. Get a 20-year-old blonde. You know, like the guy is 80-something years old, and his new wife is 24 years old.
Right?
No, we're talking about Shannon Sharp here.
Maybe I don't know.
OnlyFans, to get a blonde 20-year-old OnlyFans chick. That's what I need.
How do you know? How do you know about all this, Kwesi? Plus names.
I keep up with pop culture. And the point is that is what I need to know. I need to do to establish that I'm also having midlife crisis. That's what I need to do.
I feel like this midlife crisis is a whole episode by itself.
You know what? That would probably be the next one.
That's true. I mean, Mick Jagger, is what? And is the wife now is 34 years old.
Jeez.
You know what? Yeah.
So
how old is Mick Jagger?
Old.
Mick Jagger,
he was born in the 1900s.
He might be in the 80s. Maybe he's 80 years old.
So basically,
and his wife is 34.
She's dating her ancestor.
Oh yeah, that's all it.
Wow, that's cold. That is so cold.
You know what, Kwesi, you're saying that, and you're in midlife crisis.
Yeah, Kwesi, you're the one that brought it up because you say you are in a midlife crisis. So when people are in midlife crisis, this is everything this is the stuff that they do.
I need to find people in the future generation to date.
Exactly. The future generation. Oh, that are not born yet. They're not born yet.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why I need to.
All right.
And make sure you record everything because you're not going to remember it.
Okay.
There you go.
No.
All right.
Esther will be the place I go and dump all my information.
I mean,
when I do all of that, I call Esther to tell her all about it.
I mean, Kabochi, the more you laugh, the more I laugh because your laugh make me laugh.
Oh, come on. Oh, Jesus. This is crazy.
Well, we're gonna have to close it from here, Esther.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Thank you, Esther, for taking time off for Mother's Day to share your experience with us today on the show, Africa Straight Talk. Did your daughter call you to say Happy Mother's Day today?
She did. Yes, she did.
That's
And
nice.
then my mom also called. So
Aww.
yeah, so
That's good.
that was nice. It's gratifying. And Mother's Day is not just for the people who actually physically gave birth. Mother's Day is it covers a whole spectrum. And I know there's parents out here who've lost children. So today is probably a hard day for them. There are people out here who want to have kids and can't.
Well, we thank you. We thank you from the bottom of our heart, to Kabochi, myself, and Kwesi. We really thank you for being on the show today.
Absolutely. It was fun hanging out with you all. This is what you all do. I love it.
Yeah, we should invite you and just have like a candid, casual conversations next time. I think that would be great. All right. Okay, and that's a wrap for this episode of Africa Straight Talk. I, along with Emmanuel Nadeau and Kwesi Wilson, truly appreciate your support. Reach out. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts by searching Africa Straight Talk. And of course, spread the word. Tell a friend or 10 about us. Interested in sponsoring our podcast? Email us africastraighttalk@gmail.com. Until next time, Mzee Nadeau.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We invite you to check back here for our next one. In the meantime, be safe, be well, and love one another.